Welcome back. You're watching SA Today here on SABC News. In commemorating Human Rights Day in the National Assembly, MPs focused on how this pandemic placed a spotlight on the rights of South Africans. The debate ranged from corruption in the acquisition of personal protective equipment to the stark reality of how gender-based violence rose during this period. While the ANC government, represented by Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform Minister Thoko Didiza, gave a rundown of government interventions during this time. Opposition parties hit back, saying more than ever over the past year, the ANC-led government failed to protect human rights.
The way our government intervened in saving lives and livelihood ensured that as a nation we're cushioned from the worst. Working together with social partners, imagine the reconstruction and recovery plan is evidence that, yes, this work is not for ourselves, but for those who have the honor to serve.
The ANC is complacent in the perpetration of violence against women. With every province the DA visits, it is more evident that the ANC government does not value human rights and its interventions are not working.
We are here today faced with the reality of an increasingly repressive government, of a failing economy, of millions of black people without employment, of millions more without their land.
The global COVID-19 pandemic has shown as more than ever how precarious the guarantee of fundamental human rights and how critical it is to ensure that checks and balances on government power is maintained.
We all know that corruption with PPEs was indeed sending healthcare workers to their graves, while the thieves are still walking in our streets and reap the rewards of their theft.
On the 6th of March 2021, about 30 vehicles, 3 Nyalas, 2 water cannons, a helicopter, and dozens of police officers descended on Unity Church in Soweto in a display of military power last seen under the National Party apartheid government to harass and intimidate a church led by a woman, Pastor Mukuba. The ACDP condemns this abuse of power and grotesque use of state resources.
But the truth is that the manner in which many of our people live is a human wrong. The conditions in which they are forced to live contribute to an environment in which people cannot reach their potential, abuse substances, drop out, feel hopeless, commit crimes, and perpetrate human rights abuses.
We have to acknowledge that the majority of South African human rights are compromised on a daily basis. The present moral outrage on human rights by the South African government is the failure to ensure equity.
The problem COVID brings to South Africans is not physical death and personal suffering only. It also helps government to hide its failures behind COVID-19.
Human rights can be enjoyed or expressed in many different ways. Those with land work it to reap fruits of their labor, a right enshrined in the Constitution. Food security makes headlines every now and then, with many people condemned to poverty. A small-scale Farmers' Day held recently in Ngobo in the Eastern Cape tried to create awareness around food security. It has encouraged rural people to preserve and optimize the use of their land.
The rural Eastern Cape. Life here is on the periphery of the economy as people just get by. Thousands of people ended up here as they were dispossessed of their land under colonial rule. But the fertile land here holds economic value. Local farmers in the Ngobo area want young people and women to work the land, grow food, and become economically active.
Farming is so important. It's life. That's what I can say. Each and every woman must practice farming, because we just engaged into a space that was dominated by the male, and the departments are looking for women. The funding is based on women, especially women in youth. Yeah, but so what I would say, if you are a woman, you have time. Just go back to your roots, because we were raised by the parents that were busy with farming. Not even a single day we sleep without having food. because they were practicing farming in our backyards.
Success requires hard work, but it is already paying off for some.
Ukuqala kwami haku ndiqale ngo2019 phango November ndingunonhlalonhle in profession.
I started piggery in November 2019. I'm a social worker by profession. I was employed by the Social Development Department in Port Elizabeth in Motherwell. But I realized this is not for me. That's when I decided to go and be with my people in the villages and start my piggery farming. I wanted them to see me making it possible to flourish in front of them.
Esitulweni imini yonke ndiweyisa ixesha lam mandihambe ndiyokuba nabantu bam ezilalini abantu bendibona ndikhula ndifunda bandibone ngoku xa ndiphumelela ndikhulisa ipiggery yam from nothing to something.
There is help at hand for aspirant farmers for training, but also access to markets.
Today we are here to motivate the farmers that let's work the land. Most of the time they lose hope